Good morning, everyone. So today's session that we'll be doing is the Unit 4, and it's working in a team. And my name is Shazia Khan. Today we'll be looking at the overview of working in a team in regards to gaining knowledge to develop your employability skills. So, if there's any questions you need to ask today, please ask them. And this is the assignment discussion session. So, we've gone through the actual learning outcomes, which is 4 learning outcomes, and today is the final session, which is the assignment discussion session. If you have any questions, please either email learnthework@ukvarsity.co.uk or either just ask, please. So I'm just going to give you an overview of what we've been through in regards to the 4 learning outcomes. So the first learning outcome we looked at was to understand the key principles of working in teams and why it was so important to work in teams and what is the element of working in teams. So we looked at the purposes and the reasons for teams in any sort of organization. So for example, things like project completion, problem solving, enhancing relationships, fostering this element of creativity and innovation, and improving morale. Excuse me. We also looked at stages of groups, Tuckman, forming, storming, norming, and performing. We also looked at roles within Melbourne, resource investigator, what a team worker does, what a coordinator does, what an evaluator does, and what a shaper, implementer, and completer actually does. So we went through an element of different roles and what each one does in regards to it. We also went through the benefits of working in a team, on both the individual and also the organizations. So things like, having increased motivation and morale, having a sense of ownership, make good communication. We also went on to look at the conditions of effective team working, such as good communication, diversity of membership, accountability, delegating as well, really important part of it. And then we looked at the impact of poor communication within teams. So things like, if it's unclear what happens, if conflict occurs, what would occur in regards to that. And also in regards to, if they are unclear aims and objectives, how they would be addressed. We then went on to look at learning outcome 2, which was to understand leadership and motivation when working in teams. We looked at leadership theories in regards to that situational theory, transactional theory, transformational theory. We also looked at elements of, transactional theory and contingency theory as well in regards to that. So, we looked at the element of each theory and how they apply to working in a team. We then went on to look at elements of good working relationships, so communication, trust, respect, transparency. And we looked at the relationship between team working, motivation, productivity, and business success, and how that identifies elements of understanding and working and motivating people in the team as well, making sure this was addressed as well. So we looked at elements of that in regards to addressing issues in regards to that, and also looking at elements of good communication. So that was in learning outcome 2. So we looked at elements of learning outcome 2 and looked at productivity and the business success. And then we went on to look at learning outcome 3, was to understand how to work in a team. So identifying our roles in a team and looked at the team, things like the monitorer, the fight finisher, the shaper, and what each one role is, why it's so important within a team and why it's regarded as how to work in a team. We then went on to look at elements of conflict resolution and how that is addressed in any sort of team as well, and also formal and informal leadership in teams, and reflected our own contribution to teams as well. We finally went on to learning outcome 4, which we looked at reviewing our own employability skills. And we looked at the difference between generic, transferable skills and job specific skills, and formats for constructing and conducting a personal skills audit. Why they're so important? Why do we need skills audit? Why we also looked at our own strengths and our own weaknesses and areas for development to make sure that we've identified these areas. We went on to look at how it's important to receive and interpret feedback from others and also use job description and personal specifications and a CV and formal letters and how we compiled a CV. We then went on to look at personal development action plans such as smart targets and looked at the element of how we plan that and then managing our time in regards to trying to get developmental needs as well. So these were the elements we looked at and quickly just identified them briefly in regards to what we looked at when it came to looking at the the areas of the assignment. So these are the slides that we're going to go through today. So this is the assignment submission slide, which we're going to go through. So it's just giving you an idea of the unit aim, what it overview is, key aspects learners will gain, knowledge and understanding of the team and the roles. So what we're going to address in this is you need to firstly, the whole aim is to highlight informers of what we need to do when it comes to doing assignment and give you guidelines around it as well. And on the Moodle, there's assignment guidelines slides there as well. So firstly, your name, registration number, contents page if you want, your unit level, which is ATHE, level 3 diploma in business working in a team. The start of the assignment table of contents. You can have font size 12, 1.5 spacing, page numbers to be inserted if you put a contents page in. And it's really important to have a brief introduction as well. And make sure you put your assessment criteria in headings, which I'll go through with you, okay? Submission of your assignment, again, is around learnerworks at ukvarsity.co.uk, and we'll go through that in more detail. Assignment declaration, and this is a declaration to identify the originality of your work as well, so making sure that you've read the actual plagiarism malpractice policy on Moodle, and you've read that and you've understood the guidance on plagiarism. So it literally, the guidance is there to identify areas that you should be looking at in regards to plagiarism. So it looks at things like, you need to make sure you're referencing your work properly, making sure that you are not, getting any work off AI, fabricating any work. It looks at elements of, inappropriate conflict of interest, inappropriate use of work, referencing cheating, maybe taking someone else's work, plagiarism, using directly copying someone's work, or even on the declaration you are signing that it says that you've referenced all your work, you've fully quoted all your work, you've used commas on, you referenced all your diagrams and everything, and also looked at any sources and figures and referenced them as well. Also, it'll go on to that you haven't used any other person's work and that you've not got any sort of you've not purchased any assignment from any sort of essay bank or anything like that, okay? And you are declaring that you are signing this, and it's really, really important because you need to make sure you are not, again, using inappropriate use of AI. So making sure you are not referring to AI generators to help you do the assignment or anything, and make sure you are, working and it's your original work, because you are signing this to say that this is your original work. Again, no collusion going on. So when workers work together on assignment, make sure that it's not colluded. Make sure your assignment is your own assignment, and make sure you're not impersonating any other person as well. And this is part of the malpractice and maladministration procedure policy, which you will look at in regards to this, and make sure you are identifying elements of this in your assignment to make sure that you are not plagiarizing any sort of work from anyone, and making sure that the work you've submitted is your own work and nobody else's work as well, okay? So it's really important that the work you've submitted, you need to make sure it's your own work. And you are signing this declaration, so it's really important that you sign this declaration according to the requirements, okay? If there's failure to, comply with this, there are, if there's misuse of AI or you've bought your assignment, there are, investigation processes that will need to go through. But that can be discussed later on. So it's just really important, this declaration. Okay. So as we've gone through the learning outcomes, understand key principles of work teams, and we've gone through these already. Understanding legal leadership and motivation when working in a team, and understand how to work in a team, and can review your own employability skills. So let's go through the assignment scenario. So before progressing onto university to study international business, you have managed to secure a 4-month, let's just, a 4-month management internship with a prestigious company in Oxford, England. Vito is relatively small UK-based electric vehicle manufacturer focused on making small, affordable electric cars and commercial vehicles. It has run the internship scheme for several years, offering just 10 places a year. If you complete the internship successfully, it will increase your chances of looking at increase your chances of joining Vito's graduate recruitment program, and your responses to the task should be based on real businesses that you are familiar with, and the business needs to be a small business, medium enterprise, although some sole traders may not be able to provide sufficient information when it comes to giving information out. So you need to make sure you're looking at that. So this is the scenario that is expected of you to look at, and then these are the tasks. So Kareem is your head, and is head of HR, and he has asked you to believe that recent customer complaints are partly as a result of staff at Vito not working well together. So for this reason, he wants you to introduce more team working in the business. He has asked you to prepare 2 documents to be used as handouts for staff to refer to in preparation for the next staff meeting, and he hopes that this will focus the minds of staff on how their team can work more effectively together. So here you will be looking at elements of trying to work around what Kareem wants you to do and looking at the learning outcomes. Okay. So your first document must include examples from real businesses and should outline the following. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things to do for this. Okay. So firstly, he wants you in task 1. You need to outline 3 purposes of teams in organizations. So here you need to look at the element of teamwork in organizations and what identifies that. So you need to make sure you are looking at outlining 3 elements of teamwork. Okay. Then you need to explain the roles adopted by team members. So like we looked at coordinators, finishers, you've got, the coordinators, finishers, team leaders. So look at them roles, and these are learning outcome 1 as well. So 1.12, okay? The next one is analyze the conditions of the effective team working. So there we go. Fourthly, analyze the benefits of team working. And then fifthly, explain the leadership styles, which we looked at in transactional, transformational, etc. And then explain the different features of effective leadership, and explain how leaders can motivate their teams to encourage working positive in relationships. Do not change any of the wording. The wording is expected for you to do this, so do not change this. In this, to answer this, you will be looking at learning outcome 1, you will be looking at learning outcome 2, and you will be looking at some parts of learning outcome 3 as well, which we'll go through. Okay, so make sure you've got 7 parts to it. Task 1, do not change the wording. So this is for a pass criteria. Okay, so you need to make sure you've answered all them for a pass criteria. In task 1, again, Kareem has arranged some staff training on team working. Okay, he will be asking staff to consider the team roles they've experienced as part of their training. You will need to complete a short case study, and Kareem wants you your second handout to be a good example that demonstrates how staff could approach this task, okay? So he also wants you to, your second document should look at analysing the roles you and others have adopted in a team, again, looking at the different roles and importance of them roles. Then also look explaining where issues arose, and then explain how these issues were managed. So again, looking at learning outcome 1, 2, and 3, he wants you to do this in the second document. Again, do not change the wording. Answer each one with reference to it, okay? So do not change the wording. Then, for the extension activities to gain a merit, Kareem wants you to produce a short discussion paper to help team members at Verto. The paper, now this is to gain a merit, okay? You would have to do all the pass and then the merit to gain a merit. So for the merit, you would have to evaluate one motivational theory which is used in organizations to improve productivity. So you could look at the motivational theories around. It could be Belbin's, it could be any of the other theories, and you would be looking at doing that in learning outcome 2, okay? 2M1 to get the merit, okay? So you need to make sure you're getting that. So to complete and get the merit, you need to complete all the pass and the merit, okay? Now to achieve a distinction, okay, you need to have a further section on the same paper where you will look at analysing the leadership style for specific team leader in a named organisation. Okay, so here you would look at getting the distinction. So for this, you would look at doing all the pass criteria, all the merit criteria, and then the distinction criteria to get a distinction. You can't just do the distinction criteria and expect to get a distinction. You would need to do all the elements and all the assessments on all the tasks to get that distinction. Okay. So the learning outcomes used for these merit pass merit tasks in task 1 is learning outcome 1, AC 1.1, 1.2, learning outcome 2, AC 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2M1. And also learning outcome 3, AC 3.1, and 3D1. And these are for task 1, and these are to get the actual, you want to get the distinction, you would have to do the extension criteria for merit and for distinction. Task 2. Kareem is pleased with the way in which you undertake these activities and thinks it would be useful personal development for you to reflect on your own team working and employability skills, and he asks you to complete a final task, okay? So this is task 2, okay? So he's asked you to carry out a personal development skills audit using evidence from your own teamwork or other commitments to justify your strengths and areas of development, okay? That's the first part, and make sure you do not change the wording to that, okay? He's then asked you to select an advertisement for a job and compile a personal CV with the accompanying covering letter for that job. So make sure you are looking at doing everything for that job, okay? No other job, just find a job online and compile a CV and personal covering letter for that, okay? So these are the pass criteria for task 2. For the extension criteria to get a merit, is also asked you must provide evidence that you can construct an action plan for developing skills that you identify as requiring further improvement. So it may be the fact that you need, further training in teamwork. It maybe you need training in IT. Maybe you need training in, it could be training in using Word document. It could be anything. Okay, so these are ways to improve. So you need an action plan, and this is to get a merit. So for this task 2, you will be looking at learning outcome 4, 4.1, 4.2, and 4M1, okay, to achieve task 2 and get a merit, okay? Now, if you just want to do the pass criteria, you would only stick to doing the top 2, sorry, okay? And the extension criteria is if you want to gain a merit, and here you will be looking at learning outcome 4, 4.1, and 4.2. And you need to make sure you are achieving the tasks, making sure you are completing the tasks, and making sure you are completing the assessment criteria for each task. For the first one, obviously, you've got to look at AC 1.1 and look at different elements of that and explain maybe Belbin's theories and things like that. And for tasks, make sure you are uh, sticking to what you are expected to do in the tasks, and look at the wording of the tasks as well. Explain, identify, analyze, and see how much you need to work around that. Make sure you do a conclusion, a reference list, and a bibliography at the end. Okay, some useful tips for you towards doing the assignment. Read the tasks carefully. Make sure you are looking at what the tasks are expecting from you and focus on details. Okay, so if it's asking you about the theories and leadership styles, do that. Do not look at how leaders motivate their teams. Make sure you look at the learning styles. Okay, and some command words broadly, just as guidance suggests for action. Command words you can cover by writing them. Explain, define, describe, 70 to 100 words. Assess, examine, clarify, analyze, 100 to 125. Compare, contrast, critically evaluate, 150 to 200. And then again, using the Harvard system of referencing. The main system you will be using throughout you doing your work at UK Varsity is Harvard system for referencing, where it looks at the author and the date and the style in text. And then in text would be, for example, Slack, Johnston, Brandon Jones, 2011. In reference, it will be the full thing. Okay. For this assignment, the word limit is 3,500. Which you need to identify and look at for this assignment. So the word count is 3,500. And templates tolerance. Again, looking at plagiarism, making sure you're looking at elements of plagiarism, and AI must be below 20%, and make sure you are looking at elements of that. And it must be below 20% when you look at elements of that. Okay, so to avoid any sort of elements of plagiarism, you need to be looking at having AI below 20%. Okay, some little guidance at the start. Make sure you have an introduction and conclusion, which is very brief. Okay, make sure you have a using Harvard referencing, and the main one that you could refer to is a toolbox you can use online called Neil's Toolbox, which actually helps in regard to putting together your referencing and then copying and pasting that over. Make sure your diagrams are referenced accordingly. Make sure you have a reference list and it's in alphabetical order. Again, try to use more examples when you're talking about certain concepts, real world examples as well. Make sure you are using the assessment criteria. Do not change what the assessment the criteria is asking you. So for task one, make sure it is what you're doing in task one and the 7 points. So do not change the wording of them. And you need to refer to your indicative content all the time. So you are checking the word count all the time. Okay. So make sure you are looking at, do not use bullet points. It needs to be an academic piece of work. It needs to flow. It needs to, make sure you are not copying and pasting any work. Make sure your references. There's loads of ebooks that you can use online on the actual website, Moodle, to help you in regards to that. Make sure it's a professional piece of work. And make sure you have a standard margins, and it's 1.5 line spacing, either Arial or Calibri 11 or 12 font size, and write in paragraphs. Do not use bullet points. It needs to be a professional piece of work. Okay. Also, make sure you are sticking to the grading. If you want to get a pass, do the pass criteria. If you want to get a merit, do the extension criteria, and the distinction to do the extension criteria. For a pass, maybe 3,000 to 4,000 words. For a merit, 4,000 to 5,000 words, and for distinction, 5,000 to 6,500 words. Okay, maximum with the use of examples and the use of your academically professional work as well. Be specific. Use theories on real life case studies. Make sure you stay objective and don't put the word count at the end. And also email us in regards to what you are expecting. So if you're getting a pass, merit, or distinction, what is your expectation, okay? Also, make sure that you are submitting your assignment. You need to make sure you have signed a declaration as well of originality. And you can also, a link to that is on top in regards to Moodle that you can get the link off. The assignment, again, always write an introduction, a brief introduction, and also try to write the assignment in third person. Um, and make sure that you are reading the policy for plagiarism and malpractice, because it's really important that you have signed the declaration, and when we put your work through to scan it, it will identify if AI has been used. So make sure you are not using AI, and if you do use it a little bit, it should be below 20%, okay? Because it needs to be flagged up as below 20%, because that's the threshold used, okay? Again, if there's any issues around it, make sure you are working according to the specification. And also on Moodle, there is videos available on how to submit the assignment. So make sure you are not copying and pasting your work, as it's plagiarism and would lead to academic misconduct. And make sure that you are reading the policy for academic misconduct as well, and making sure that your guidance is there in regards to it. Make sure you reference all your work, any sources, any diagrams, anything like that. Make sure you reference them. A big one is make sure you use UK command verbs, and you are checking your grammar and spelling as well, because it's really important to check your grammar and spelling, and make sure you are not using American style English as well. Read ebooks and journals available for Moodle in regards to some extra additional information that you can use. In regards to that, make sure you are using it, and also make sure you are referring to ebooks, and any sort of questions or anything around Moodle. Make sure you are emailing learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk, okay? So make sure you are using the element of journals and any sort of workbooks that are available to you. So I'm just going to go online now and show you the assignment and how it looks in regards to it, okay? So let's go. So I'll just go back onto the assignment. So this is the assignment. This is how it looks on Moodle. So this is what you will have access to. It's assignment. It tells you the unit name, working in a team. It tells you the awarding body, which is ATHE, and it tells you the credits and which course it's for as well, okay? Then it actually goes through the assignment scenario, which I've given you on Moodle as well, on the actual slide. So I've just copied everything from that. It's also looking at the scenario, and it's also looking at the tasks. What is expected of you in the task? So the scenario is there, then it looks at the task. So task one, like we said, is 7 parts to it. So you have these 7 parts here. Make sure you are answering all these and making sure that you are not changing the wording around. And this is for the pass criteria. And then, given these, what is expected of you. So make sure you're looking at that in regards to that. And then, making sure that you're looking at the team in regards to doing the extension activities. So the next one to look at is the extension activities, which identifies what you need to do for a merit. If you want to get a merit, you need to make sure that you are doing all the past ones, which are the top ones. So 7 of them, and then 3 of them as well, to get the pass criteria. To get a merit, you need to make sure you are doing all the merit criteria to get the merit. So you need to make sure all the pass is done for gaining a pass, and you need to make sure all the merit is done for gaining the merit, okay? So you need to make sure that you have done all that to gain a merit. Now, if you just want to get a pass, do the pass criteria. If you want to get the merit as well, do the merit criteria. If you want to get a distinction, then you move on to doing the distinction criteria. This is for task 1. Okay, here you will be looking at learning outcome 1, 2, and 3, and referring to that to do task 1. Okay, task 2 looks at another scenario, but it asks you to carry out a personal skills audit using evidence from your work, teamwork, or other commitments to justify strengths and areas for development. Also looking at advertisement for a job which you aspire, and compile a CV and a personal covering letter for the role. Now, to carry out this, and if you want to get a merit, you need to make sure you are constructing an action plan for developing skills that you identify as requiring further improvement. So you need to make sure you're doing that. All the task 2 is in accordance with learning outcome 2. Make sure that you are submitting learning outcome 2 in accordance with this. So you are looking at elements of learning outcome 2, and you are, learning outcome 4, and looking at doing task 2 in accordance with learning outcome 4. Okay, so action plan you need to do a personal development audit, and you need to do a CV and a covering letter, and this is all for task 2, and you would need to use learning outcome 4 for that, 4.1, 4.2, and 4M1. The next thing on your assignment brief is the element of guidelines for assessors, and this is for assessors to look at what is expected of you and the wording around it as well. So you need to make sure you are looking at this in more detail. Okay, so if you want to have a look at this, it's up to you. So this is the guidance that you needed for your assignment. You need to make sure, again, let's go back onto the slides. Make sure you are doing them in accordance to the element of working in a team, and also making sure that you are, if you have any questions or anything, please email learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. So if you have any questions around the assignment, you need to be using your learning outcomes to help you complete the tasks, and also you need to make sure that you are doing your work in accordance with the learning outcomes and the assessment criteria. And if you want to do the extension activities, that you are in line with doing them. So you need to make sure you are doing all the learning outcomes in regards to learning outcome 1, 2, 3, and 4 for task 3 learning outcomes for task 1, and 4 learning outcome, the 4th learning outcome for task 2. Okay. Any questions? You have 2 weeks after today's session to complete the assignment. Any questions around doing the assignment or any questions in general, just email learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. You have 2 weeks now to submit the assignment. Please take into account the policy on AI, and take into account the guidance we've used. And also, if you want to use something called Neil's Toolbox to help you do the referencing for the assignment, I can show you Neil's Toolbox, which I will show you just 1 minute. Let's just go and show you Neil's Toolbox, and that would give you a little bit of an idea what is expected of you in the assignment as well, and that will help you get together to do your referencing, and that would be referencing in regards to any sort of referencing when it's coming to do your assignment, or towards the end where you have to do the bibliography. Okay, so let me just show you this. It's called Neil's Toolbox. It's just here. You just put in Neil's Toolbox, and this looks at, it's called a reference generator. It looks at elements of referencing a book. Okay, it looks at elements of referencing referencing books. It looks at referencing internet sources. It looks at elements of referencing any sort of sources that you need to use for your assignment. So it would be elements of a chapter of a book, it could be the internet, it could be just giving you ideas of that. So we'll go on to referencing of a book, okay? And that I'll just have a look at that. So if we put in the book title, maybe working in a team, and then looking at the author, we'll put Smith J, and then the publisher, put in Peacock, publisher Peacock, and then just an idea of Oxford, maybe it was published. And then you've got the publication year 2020, and the first edition, it could be 9th edition, and then you just press this thing called generate reference. If you go to that, it's made it for you. Can you see there? It's actually made the reference for you where you can copy and paste that into the bibliography at the back of it. And that will help you and improve things and make it a little bit faster for you to put it into your bibliography, because it says there, copy and paste into your bibliography section at the end. So if you use resources like internets, you use resources like books, chapters of book, textbooks, ebooks, anything like that, emails, websites, it will help you reference it. So if you struggle with hard referencing, there's this site, but there's also other sites that you can use online that would help you try to, uh, make it up, generate it, and then copy and paste that, because it puts the dots and the commas and everything in the right place for you. So it's easier for you to copy and paste that. Okay, so I hope that's helped you. You can download that. There's other websites you can download according to that. And if you have any questions around the assignment or anything like that, just stick to the brief, what the brief is asking you. Do not change the wording or anything, and stick to what the brief is asking you and answer the questions. Read them carefully. If you have any issues, you've got 2 weeks after today's session. If you have issues with submitting, please email learnerwork@ukvarsity.co.uk. If you have issues with any queries around that, email the same. And thank you for attending today's session, and good luck with getting on with the assignment. Thank you.